She doesn't melt because you bought her flowers. She doesn't fall because you text her all day. And she definitely doesn't feel safe just because you call yourself a nice guy. What melts her is something so rare, so quietly powerful, that almost no man dares to use it. Welcome to Female Code Unlocked, where you don't just learn about women, you understand them. If you're ready to unlock the psychology she'll never say out loud, subscribe now and step into the deeper game. Now listen carefully. You've been told to impress her, to prove yourself, to chase harder, to talk smoother, to compete louder. But here's the truth most men can't handle. The manly gesture that melts a woman isn't dominance. It's restraint. Not weakness, not passivity, but controlled power. Imagine this. She's upset. Maybe she's frustrated with work. Maybe she's testing you. Maybe she's emotional and doesn't even fully understand why. Most men panic. They try to fix. They argue. They defend themselves. They explain. They escalate. And in that moment, she feels alone. Because what she's unconsciously searching for isn't a solution. She's searching for emotional containment. Here's the gesture almost nobody uses. You stay grounded. You don't react. You don't flinch. You don't crumble. You don't overpower her emotions. You hold steady. There's something deeply biological about this. A woman is constantly scanning for emotional stability. Not perfection. Stability. When she's overwhelmed and you remain calm, not cold, not dismissive, but calm, her nervous system begins to regulate through yours. That's power, real power, not the loud kind, not the flashy kind, the quiet kind that says, I can handle this, I can handle you. Think about the last time she got dramatic. Did you try to win the argument? Or did you pause, look at her, and say calmly, talk to me. I'm right here. That sentence, delivered with grounded energy, melts more walls than 1,000 compliments. Because here's the dark psychological truth. Women test emotional strength unconsciously, not to sabotage you, but to measure your capacity. Can you handle her intensity? Can you hold space when she spirals? Can you stay masculine without turning aggressive? Most men fail this test because their ego gets triggered. She raises her voice. They raise theirs. She pulls away. They chase. She questions them. They defend desperately. But the man who melts her? He leans back internally. He listens. He absorbs without absorbing. He validates without surrendering his frame. Imagine she says, "You don't understand me." Instead of reacting, you look at her and say softly, "Then help me understand." Not sarcastic, not irritated, grounded. That gesture tells her something powerful. You are not threatened by her emotions. And when a woman feels that her emotions don't scare you, she relaxes, she softens, she opens. Because deep down, what she fears most isn't conflict. It's emotional chaos without protection. And protection doesn't mean control. It means presence. Have you noticed how rare that is? Most men either dominate or disappear. But the rare man stays, even when it's uncomfortable, even when she's not at her best, even when she's pushing. That steadiness feels like safety. And safety is seductive, not because it's soft, but because it's solid. When you don't react impulsively, you communicate something primal. I am not moved by storms. And every woman, no matter how independent, feels drawn to that energy because she wants passion, but she also wants peace. And the man who can embody both, he becomes unforgettable. This is the gesture almost nobody uses because it requires inner strength, not outer performance. And in a world full of loud masculinity, the quiet, controlled one wins. But here's where it gets even deeper. Staying calm isn't about pretending you don't care. It's about mastering your emotional temperature. Because when you lose control, even slightly, something shifts inside her. She might not say it. She might not even consciously realize it. But she feels it. And once she feels that you can be shaken, she stops leaning. A woman doesn't melt for the man who reacts. She melts for the man who responds. There's a difference. Reaction is ego. Response is power. Picture this. She cancels plans last minute. No real explanation. Just, something came up. Most men immediately spiral. Is she losing interest? Who is she with? Did I do something wrong? And they show it. They send that passive-aggressive text. They overask questions. They try to resecure their position. But the man who understands female psychology does something different. He replies calmly, "No worries. Let me know when you're free." And then he actually means it. No emotional leakage, no resentment, no overcompensation. That detachment, not coldness, but emotional self-control, creates gravity. Why? Because you subtly communicate that your world doesn't collapse without her validation. That's rare. And rare is magnetic. Here's the part nobody talks about. When you stay centered, she begins to invest. When you don't chase, she moves closer. When you don't demand reassurance, she gives it. When you don't react emotionally, she becomes more emotionally expressive. This isn't manipulation, it's polarity. If both of you are emotionally unstable in the moment, there's chaos. But when one of you is grounded, the other softens. And when that grounded one is you, she feels safe enough to be feminine. Now imagine another scenario. She's telling you about a mistake she made. She's embarrassed, defensive, slightly irritated. Most men judge. They say, "I told you so," or they give logical lectures. But you? You listen fully. You look at her, steady, and say, "You don't have to be perfect with me." That sentence, if delivered with genuine strength, disarms her completely. Because deep down, many women carry pressure to be beautiful enough, smart enough, emotionally balanced enough. When you become the space where she doesn't have to perform, she relaxes in ways she doesn't even understand. And relaxation leads to attachment. Here's the darker psychological layer. Emotional unpredictability creates anxiety. Emotional stability creates bonding. If she never knows whether you'll be irritated, jealous, or reactive, her nervous system stays alert. But if she knows that when she brings chaos, you bring calm, you become her emotional anchor. Anchors are not exciting at first glance, but they are irreplaceable. And once a woman associates you with emotional safety, something shifts inside her. She starts thinking about you differently. She starts valuing you differently. She starts fearing losing you. Because calm masculine presence is rare in a world of fragile egos. The real manly gesture isn't loud. It's the way you pause before speaking. The way your voice lowers instead of rises. The way your body language stays open instead of tense. The way you don't need to win every moment. That energy says, "I am in control of myself." And self-control is seductive. Not flashy, not dramatic, but deeply attractive on a subconscious level. Here's what you must understand. Women don't fall for perfection. They fall for emotional security wrapped in quiet strength. And when you master that, when you stop trying to impress and start embodying stability, you shift from being just another option to being the man she feels. And feelings are what decide everything. Now let's go even further, because this is where most men misunderstand the entire game. Calmness alone isn't enough. It's calmness with boundaries. A lot of men here stay grounded and turn into doormats. They tolerate disrespect. They suppress their feelings. They smile through behavior that clearly crosses a line. That's not strength. That's fear, disguised as patience. And women feel that instantly. The manly gesture that truly melts her is this. You stay emotionally steady, and you draw the line without anger. Imagine she speaks to you in a way that feels dismissive, slight disrespect, a sharp tone. Most men either explode or swallow it. But you? You look at her calmly and say, "I'm not okay with being spoken to like that." No yelling, no emotional drama, no lecture. Just grounded clarity. Do you understand how powerful that is? Because in that moment, you communicate three things at once. You respect yourself. you're not afraid of conflict, and you don't need to dominate to be heard. That combination is rare, very rare. Here's the psychological truth. A woman doesn't feel safe with a man she can overpower. She also doesn't feel safe with a man who overpowers her. She feels safest with the man who can overpower, but chooses restraint. Controlled strength triggers deep attraction because it signals capability without threat. Think about it. Anyone can lose control. Anyone can shout. Anyone can walk away dramatically. But it takes inner command to stay composed, hold eye contact, and speak with slow certainty. That kind of energy hits her nervous system differently. She might argue less. She might soften mid-sentence. She might suddenly shift her tone. Not because you forced her, but because you didn't crumble. Here's something even deeper. When you remain centered during tension, you subtly lead the emotional direction of the interaction. Leadership in relationships isn't about control. It's about emotional regulation. If she senses that you can handle stress without becoming stress, she starts trusting you with more of herself. More vulnerability, more honesty, more affection. But if she senses that her moods destabilize you, she pulls back. Because now she feels like the stronger emotional force, and that kills polarity. Let me give you one more real-life moment. She says, "Maybe we should take a break." Most men panic instantly. They beg, they negotiate, they promise change, they try to convince. But the man who understands this gesture pauses, breath steady, voice calm. If that's what you feel you need, I respect it. No bitterness, no sarcasm, just strength. That response does something unexpected. It removes pressure. It shows you're not desperate. And paradoxically, that's when doubt creeps into her mind. Why isn't he chasing? Why is he so calm? Did I underestimate him? Confidence under emotional threat is magnetic because it signals abundance. It signals self-worth. And self-worth is the foundation of attraction. Here's the final layer of this gesture. It's not something you perform for her. It's something you become for yourself. When you master your reactions, your tone, your boundaries, your emotional state, you stop living in fear of losing her. And when you're not afraid of losing her, she starts becoming afraid of losing you. That's the paradox. The man who melts a woman isn't the one who tries the hardest. It's the one who is the hardest to emotionally shake. Not cold, not distant, not indifferent, but deeply steady. In a world full of reactive men, be the calm storm she can't ignore. And here's what almost nobody tells you. When you become that steady man, you change the entire emotional dynamic without saying a word. Because now, she's not responding to your effort. She's responding to your energy. You walk into the room, composed. You listen, fully present. You speak, slowly, intentionally. You react, rarely. And suddenly, she feels something different around you. Not anxiety, not pressure, not performance, but depth. There's something incredibly attractive about a man who is not in a rush to prove himself. When she senses that you don't need to dominate the conversation, don't need to win every disagreement, don't need constant reassurance, she starts leaning in. She starts trying to impress you. She starts revealing parts of herself she doesn't show to unstable men. Why? Because emotional safety creates emotional exposure, and exposure creates attachment. Most men try to melt a woman with words, but words without grounded presence feel empty. You can say all the right things, but if your voice shakes when challenged, if your mood shifts with hers, if your confidence depends on her validation, she feels it. Women are highly attuned to emotional shifts. It's instinctive. That's why the gesture is subtle. It's in the way you don't interrupt when she's emotional, the way you don't over-explain yourself when misunderstood, the way you don't beg for clarity when she's distant, the way you maintain your routine, your purpose, your direction, regardless of her mood. That consistency creates gravity, and gravity pulls. Understand this clearly. When you control yourself, you don't need to control her. And that is what separates boys from men. A boy reacts. A man regulates. A boy seeks reassurance. A man provides stability. A boy fears emotional tension. A man remains centered inside it. And when she encounters that difference, truly encounters it, she feels relief. Relief is powerful. Relief feels like exhaling after holding your breath for too long. If every other man in her life has been reactive, jealous, impulsive, or fragile, and then she meets you, steady, grounded, quietly assertive, you don't just stand out, you imprint. That's the gesture. Not loud dominance, not sweet words, not constant attention, but emotional command. Master that, and you won't have to chase attraction. You'll embody it. And when you embody it, women don't just notice you, they feel you. And feelings are what truly melt them. If this shifted your perspective even slightly, then you're already thinking differently than most men. This is Female Code Unlocked, where you don't chase reactions, you understand psychology. If you're ready to master the deeper layers of attraction, hit subscribe, like this video, and comment steady below if you're choosing emotional strength over emotional impulse. Because the world is full of noise, but the man who controls himself controls the dynamic. And that changes everything.